Gary Myers is wrong. I told you that before.
Hey, Gary Myers is always wrong. Thank you for telling us. And that kicks off PIX on Pigskin.
Wait, we can't really.
Great.
Why
Oh,
not?
yeah.
That's fantastic. We not only can we are, and we did.
Let's go with
So I'd like to personally welcome you guys all to PIX on Pigskin from the PIX 11 Sports Department, still high above 42nd Street in the heart of New York City. I am your host, Todd Ehrlich, the executive producer of the PIX 11 Sports Department.
You like saying that, don't you?
I do like saying that, actually. I like the title.
I like
You
it
know,
too.
I mean, you're the king of all media. Do you like that title?
No, I think that's a little much. But
Do you?
I like
Well, that's how we get you here. A little much seems to work for you. It's just enough. On today's show, besides patronizing Gary Myers, the Jets and Giants are coming off big wins. Both wins were predicted by only one person on this panel, one person only.
Who's
that
that?
would be me, yours truly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. I'm taking a virtual bow.
I didn't say
Yes.
it. You did.
Well, I mentioned it, but I appreciate you teeing it up for me.
That's what I do.
It was, yes, it is, and you do it very, very
Thanks
well.
so
Which
much.
brings your record to 2-6 on the season.
Actually, that's
By the way,
true.
that's better than
Wait,
the Jets.
no, that's actually true. That's well played, Joe. Because I do pick the home teams every week. The Jets are off to merry old England to take on the Falcons. The Giants are off to merry old Jerryland to take on the Cowgirls. And we're going to tackle Urban Meyer's future and Brady and Belichick's past. Let's start with the Giants. It's Dallas week. They're going to play the Cowboys. So Joe Judge said results don't matter, it's the process. He seems to agree with the legendary Greg Buttle that wins don't matter. Are they both out of their minds? Gary Myers.
Oh.
well, we know that Greg is. I mean, we can start with that assumption without having to really explain it. As far as Joe Judge, I think you had to really listen to everything he said that day. I mean, he's not downplaying winning the game or the importance of results. He just wants the process of getting there to be the way he wants it, to be things to be done correctly. I'm not sure if he felt like the win in New Orleans wasn't done his way. I mean, when you lose your first three, you don't have really much to complain about getting a victory. But I think he's looking for both offensive and defensively to follow the script a little more and play. Nobody plays a perfect game, but to do it the right way. But as I said on the show that coming up on Sunday, is he cares about results because ultimately that's how he'll be judged and has his job performance will be evaluated, and ultimately whether he'll retain his job as a Giants coach, after this year and going forward. It's going to be the one-loss record that determines it.
So, Greg Buttle, you famously said and often quoted on the New York Blitz that wins and losses don't matter. What did you think about what Joe Judge said? And did he steal the line from you? And did he do the proper attribution and give you credit for it? These are my questions.
Well, that's a lot of questions. I'll start with the first one. And I agree 100% with him. First of all, wins and losses are a result of what you do out on the field. And you can't get to the result until the process gets played out. So the process is important. And within the process, there are two competing values. One is the coaches, and the other is the players. So you have to get to a point in there where one complements the other. It's almost like offense, defense complementing each other. You've got to know your players. You've got to know what plays they can do and what they can perform at. And as the players, you've got to be confident in what's been called as that's going to be good for us. That process that they put together, it does take time because there are players that get injured and now things change. And it doesn't change nicely. It's a dramatic change despite what the looks are out there, unless you have a veteran team that came off of a playoff run or a Super Bowl. When there's a change happening, that's a toss-up of, is this guy going to be good enough? Does he really conform to what we're doing? Is he smart enough to play every play? Does he understand what we're doing? Does he understand what the offense is doing to him or the defense is doing to him? There's a lot that goes into that. And that one guy can screw it up. Now, that being said, that's where coaching comes in. Does the coach know that he can do that? Or do I have to limit his play and sporadically situational substitute with that player or any player on your team? So when he talks about the process, that's the process. And it comes down to, is someone going to kick a field goal and hit the upright? Or is someone kick it through and beat me? Or am I going to win? Or is it my call that at the end of the game that I say kick the field goal and we should have gone for it on 4th down? That's part of the process that you go out there and say, okay, sometimes it's a roll of the dice. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes they have this little sheet that says, no, this is what I got to do. Clock says this, I'm doing that. And so you get to that point where in football particularly, you have all of this stuff that you can't just make it happen. You've got to play it into happen. And then all of a sudden, you've heard many times go, what is that team? What are the Giants? I don't know what the Giants are yet. I don't know what the Jets are yet. There are bits and pieces of there. The kid Jones is playing very well. I'm telling you, he's playing better than I thought he was going to play. The kid at quarterback, Wilson, for the Jets. Oh, he's played great and he's played terrible. I've expected that. One I didn't expect, the other one is expected. So when you sit around there and say, where is it going? There's a process in here. And that's why wins and losses don't matter at this point. Sure, the result is a win or a loss, but you've got to get all of this stuff together, and the faster you do it and the better off that you do it. Week 4, week 5 in the NFL season, that's the kickoff point, man. This is all preseason. The first quarter of a football season is the finish of preseason as far as I'm concerned.
Joe?
I felt like I got lost in that forest of words that Greg Buttle was taking us through right there. Bottom line is, at the end of the day, you get measured by your wins and losses, and that is the result of your process. So if you don't have the wins and losses...
Time out. Who gets measured by wins and losses?
The team, the coach, the players, everybody.
How are playoff spots determined? I'm confused.
Coaches only get measured by wins and losses. Players don't. Players get measured by how they play. There's a big difference. Big difference.
To a degree. I mean,
or else every player
like...
would be fired at the end of a coach's reign when he, like Adam Gase, when he lost.
You can't fire every player. I think that's pretty much a cliche. So you change the leadership at the top. But the players are judged on wins and losses because how they play helps determine the wins and losses.
Oh, so it's about how you play, right?
Absolutely, but wait a minute. So
coaches are determined by wins and losses.
Listen,
You're just going semantics
the organization,
here. If you know what semantics means.
You are, because I know how to spell it, too.
The whole thing about this, though, is, yes, you said it yourself. The result is a win or a loss, right? If you're not getting the desired result, then you need to change the process, right? Would you agree with that?
Maybe not. You might have to change the player.
I like to call time out here. There's only one person in this room that is the voice of reason.
Andy.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. I like listening to it. Look, the way I look at it is like this. Greg, you're looking at it from a player perspective. Ultimately, it's going to come down to the next contract, the next situation. You're working on your sole focus is on progress and making sure you reach your potential. I think as a team, though, when I hear Judge talk about that, I think, okay, I get it. And in this case, yes, his record doesn't tell the whole story. It's just not indicative
but
of
you are what your record says you are.
But ultimately,
that's an old cliche.
But ultimately, that is what this is about. It's about wins and losses. And ultimately, when you're looking at the big picture, that's why people say it was a failure of a season if you don't win a championship, because it does come down for a team, a W or an L. That's how it's measured. But I get it. I get what you're saying, Greg, when you mention that, when you talk about, the wins and losses don't matter. You're talking about your own performance. But I think big picture, that's all you have to decide a situation was W or L.
You're so much better than these guys because you get me. They don't get me.
I understand you. I understand you all. All
Somebody
you
has
freaks.
You and his mother
All
and
you,
his wife.
all you
That's
weirdos.
right.
That's it.
All you
Three's a
weirdos, I
charm.
understand you.
So Danny Dimes, speaking of understanding people, got a win last weekend and was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. He threw for 400 yards. Gary Myers, do you see him having the same type of success in Dallas?
Yeah, because I still don't think the Cowboys' defense is all that good. So they can be thrown on, they can be run on, they can be scored on. Daniel Jones played really well for the first month of the season. That's kind of gotten lost in the record because, as we know, the record is what counts the most. And even though Jones has played fairly well, look how much differently we would have the perception of Jones would be at this point.
If they were 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, and they were the last play field goal in 2 games away from getting there. But then you can say, well, if he made one more play against Atlanta, and the week before, if he had completed that third down pass to Shepard, and he took it for the first down, that would have been a victory. And now we're talking 3-1, and Daniel Jones is on a roll going into Dallas after winning it in overtime in New Orleans. So, but the only thing I'll agree with Greg on in terms of the results being secondary is that as far as the two quarterbacks are concerned, that's where I think the individual performance is most important because ultimately we know the Giants and Jets are not, if they're not playoff teams, we don't think either one of them is, then what's going to determine if this season is a success is whether they feel good about each of their quarterbacks going into 2022. The Giants couldn't have felt good about Jones, but they feel better now. And we don't know how the Jets are going to feel about Zach Wilson because he played for 3 weeks and terrible against New England and played really well for most of the game against Tennessee. So now it seems like the arrow is pointing up on him, but this is such an up-and-down league, especially with rookies, that he can play horribly in London against a bad Atlanta team, and we're sitting here next week saying, oh, we don't know about Zach Wilson again. It's just too
Gary Myers, she's committed to next week's podcast, Greg Buttle.
That was well said. He used a lot of nice stuff in there that was okay. But just because Gary Myers didn't see Daniel Jones to be able to play like he is in the first 4 games, maybe Joe Judge and the Giants did. And they helped him in the offseason because they knew what he needed to come forward. Saquon Barkley, number 1. Offensive lineman, number 2. And a defense will fill in their number 3. So my thing is that let's just say the media interpretation of what Daniel Jones is a little different than what the Giants may think he is. Now, good or bad, maybe Gary might be right and the Giants may be wrong. But they're the ones that sit there and go, this is what I think we need. I mean, this is what I think he can do. And why can't he be like that? So, sure, the end of the year, at the end of the year when your record is out there, you're going to say, well, what was Daniel Jones' record? He lost 2 games by a field goal. He may lose 5 games by a field goal. Not his fault. But you're going to blame it on the quarterback. If you blame it on the quarterback, you blame it on the head coach. So the head coach and the quarterbacks are the most viable people to blame when yet everybody else, players and assistant coaches, bear a huge burden.
The quarterback and the coach are the only ones who get a record attached to them.
That would be
in football.
I agree.
But it's so different. Like, for example, you look at someone like Jacob DeGrom. He'll go and win a Cy Young award, but
Who's
it's
he?
Baseball,
you bringing baseball into this conversation.
I'll tell you why.
There's no comparison.
The only reason why is you talk about someone who, Daniel Jones, ultimately it's his record. You look at Jacob DeGrom's record with the Mets they couldn't follow it up, but at the same time, he couldn't still win a Cy Young award. It doesn't go that way with Daniel Jones.
I don't necessarily agree or disagree with that. That's a good interpretation, but I would say Gary Myers might agree with me, as all you might, and Andy, you're just a little too young. But
Joe, what about you?
Take a look at.
He's an old soul.
I think is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and you look at him and you go, "What did he do? You really didn't do anything."
Sonny Jurgensen,
Burt Jones. Burt Jones.
Burt Jones was good. He was no Sonny Jurgensen.
Burt Jones
he was a good quarterback.
No, that's in your estimation.
I
Let me
just
tell you
shared
something.
my estimation.
Yeah, but your estimation is way down on that totem pole list. But
okay,
my thing,
it's on the list.
Burt Jones was
I feel
an
good about that.
awesome quarterback. He could throw. He could make every throw out there. He had nothing. He had nothing.
Lydell
around
Mitchell. He was a good back.
Yeah, but how are you going to run the ball? What are you back into that running the ball again?
Back in those days, you won by running and defense and clock control. That's how you won in those days. That's what you played, when the whole world was black and white.
No, that's awesome.
And the forward pass was a thing of the future.
Right, exactly. Well played.
But when you say that it's on individual players, right? Like,
yes,
yes, obviously, an organization is the sum of its parts, right? The team is the sum of its parts, and but when you go and you try and say that Daniel Jones is not responsible for these wins and losses, I mean, every player is, because you just said they had to bring in the help for him, which was the wide receiver and the running back, well, or at least Saquon getting healthy, and then an offensive line to protect him. That's the thing that goes, I think, unheralded right now, because despite all of the changes, the offensive line has been solid for the Giants. They allowed 0 sacks against a very good front in New Orleans. And when you're now, look, I think it all comes together, because some of that is on Jones and his mobility. Some of it is on the play calling and the run pass option and deception of the defense. And then some of it is on just good old fashioned blocking your man and man on man, right? You win your battle. So it all comes together.
Okay, we have to keep play calling out of it, because play calling is so overrated. It's ridiculous. But that's beside the point. Let's go to the next point of contention.
So the next point of contention was the point you brought up, the Giants' offensive line. So they did give up 0 sacks. So it was seen as a weakness going in. They lost their captain. Is it possible that, and Saquon played well last week, is it possible that the Giants' offensive line, which helped Daniel Jones become Player of the Week in the NFC, is now seen as a strength, Joe?
I think they are a better pass-blocking offensive line than they have been in years past. I think they're still struggling with the run. Saquon had a huge week, but I think he had maybe 120 yards from scrimmage, and maybe half of those, if not more, were out of the backfield. Receiving.
52 rushing, 74 receiving.
There you go. So, and most of those on one play.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah.
Listen, but I think that's good. I think that they need to get Saquon involved in the passing game.
Doesn't even though it wasn't as long. Are you okay with that play in overtime?
I'm not.
Why don't you check it?
I'm just
saying. He
still has struggled this season to run the ball. And you want to say, I know some people are critical of that Le'Veon Bell style where he doesn't hit the hole as hard and he hesitates there. But the bottom line is they've been much better in pass protection.
So that was my question. So my next question was on Barkley. That wasn't his style.
Before the injury.
Right.
Right.
So is he back? Is he not back? Are we concerned about him because his style?
No, he's back because he is explosive. And you saw the way he pulled away on that play. Run. Yeah, which was a pass catch out of the backfield. He's explosive. But I think that the idea of, as you get a little bit older, maybe you get a little bit smarter, and the idea of running
so you're saying I'm smarter.
Obviously, yeah, with age comes wisdom, at least older. Experience.
So I'm wise.
There you go.
Or at least experience.
But his
Jimmy
experience...
Hendricks, are you experienced?
Comes around again.
Right.
I just think you've seen an improvement in Barkley because he's getting further removed from the ACL, and he's getting more comfortable and having more confidence when he takes a hit that his knee's not going to explode again.
But I mean, the point is he's showing in both the pass catching and the
rushing. But he hasn't shown it rushing yet, in my opinion. He's shown it. He had one run against Washington that he wasn't touched on that first level, and he made it into that second level and kind of pulled away there. His speed is there, but when he's not hitting the line,
he hit the line in overtime.
That's true for that 6-yard touchdown.
No,
you're 100%. It was the best run. It was those 3-yard runs.
At the biggest moment.
Yeah, and
it's like Buttle. When the red light comes on for the New York Blitz, he's at his best.
That's it.
The podcast, but on the Blitz, boom, he brings it.
But 100%.
Buttle, do you want to respond to that? I feel like you should. I feel like you should have some kind of snarky response.
Are you or are you not good on the show?
I wasn't paying attention. What was the question?
Are you good on the New York Blitz?
That reminds me.
I just called on you. Like I was like the teacher, and you're like, wait, what?
You're the back of the room, joking around with Joe as usual.
I have to give a great baseball analogies about it. Phil Rizzuto, and everyone's got to know the story. Phil Rizzuto has got keeping a chart, K's and this and that. And on his chart, there's a WW, and there's a WW. And a WW.
Wasn't watching.
I wasn't watching. So his partner goes, "What's the W?" I get the K's. What's the WW? He goes, "I wasn't watching." Awesome.
Awesome.
So anyway, I wasn't listening.
Okay.
WL.
Well, we were just saying how good you were on the New York Blitz.
I doubt
But
that.
Which
that's
they
not-
should
no.
tune
No, we
in.
actually were.
I
You
said
can check
that.
the tape. We keep receipts.
We keep receipts. Sunday morning, 11 a.m.
But that
PIX
you weren't
11.
paying attention during the podcast, and I guess you proved Todd's point.
Thank
so
you.
I think that's what just happened.
Next.
W-
So my next point is, how do you stop the Dallas offense? Dak is back. They're looking good. The Giants defense had exactly as many sacks as I had last week and the same amount of hits on the quarterback. So if you're not hitting Dak, can they even slow down Dallas? I'm not sure they can outscore them. Gary?
Well, you think just at about every level here that the Cowboys are just explosive offensively. Tony Pollard has a much bigger role in the running game this year, which I think has helped Zeke, that he doesn't have to
Agreed.
carry the ball 25 times a game.
Agreed.
And then,
They don't have to feed them.
yeah.
That ridiculous hand motion.
Feed them less.
Yes.
Yeah, and then-
Yeah, less calories and
Yeah.
slower.
CeeDee Lamb is just a very dangerous player. He has great wingspan and jumping ability, and he can get down the field. And he's a tough cover. And Amari Cooper probably runs the best routes in the league. I think other receivers study him on how precise his routes are. And their offensive line, although it's not what it was years ago, it still has Zach Martin, who's the best guard in the league, and most of all, and first and foremost, is I think Dak is playing as well as he ever has. He was putting up great numbers last year before he was injured against the Giants, but they weren't winning. Now, think about it. They've won 3 in a row, and the game they lost was on a last-second field goal at the Super Bowl champion in the opening game of the season. So, we talk about the Giants, could be 3-1. Dallas easily could be 4-0.
And they weren't winning last year, though, not through any fault of Dak's, because the defense was a sieve.
Right.
Right? Their defense is much
Yeah,
improved.
getting Dan Quinn in there, replacing Mike Nolan has been a huge improvement. Micah Parsons, who we need to point out, the Giants passed on in the draft and traded down and left him right there for Dallas. He's right now the defensive rookie of the year. I don't even think it's close. He's playing so well that they cut Jalen Smith. So their defense has improved, and Todd's favorite player on that defense is the brother of a guy who went to Maryland.
A Terp?
A Terp?
Brother of a Terp?
A brother of a Terp?
Brother of a Terp? A turtle?
Mhm.
Turtles in the family? Can you share with us?
Well, you don't know?
You don't know?
Well, Stephon Diggs is the Terp who plays for the Bills, and his brother
Played
is
wide receiver, a legend in the league.
a legend
Yes. and
or
a
legend.
A legendary turtle.
Yes, a legendary turtle.
So
Actually,
legend.
maybe he was the turtle that went with the Yankees. And no,
wow.
Yeah, so
Too
Tavon Diggs
soon. Too
he's
soon.
had. I think he's had an interception
Yeah, it
every
is
game.
too
Joe,
soon.
you're the stat guy.
Yeah, and he was, I think he had 2 his last game. One of them was a pick 6 against Carolina. So he has been absolutely incredible.
Well, I think he had the pick 6 against Philly. And
Oh, right,
Carolina,
you're right.
He took it down to the 3.
You're right.
So you're close.
Yeah, 5 interceptions in 4 games, I believe he's got.
played for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
So he's got that.
He knew better than to
pedigree.
go to Maryland after his brother's experience there.
Ouch! Wow,
Yeah,
that one really hurt.
That was deep.
Yeah, that was deep.
From what I
Wait,
understand, it was
wait,
between
wait,
Syracuse and
who's-
Stanford.
Wait, who's Maryland's quarterback now? Where did he come from?
Ooh.
Alabama.
That's
Oh, is that right?
interesting.
See, yes, that's right.
Talk
What do you mean,
about-
is
Oh,
that
to his
right?
brother, right?
To his brother.
Yes.
Is he burning it up for the
Yes.
He is?
Yes. He's playing great. He did
I hope he's
not.
better than his brother.
He actually didn't play against Iowa, sadly. I mean, his number was out there, his jersey. But the first 4 games, yes, he played.
Speaking of Tua,
Speaking of Tua.
how bad a mistake did the Dolphins make taking Tua instead of Justin Herbert?
Well, Justin
Yeah.
Herbert has looked pretty good.
You
Oh,
think?
pretty good.
You're
Well, he
tough
didn't look
on
great
praise.
against the Dallas Cowboy defense. The much maligned defense that you were very
They,
critical.
they lost on a field goal.
I mean, I hear you. So the Giants have lost many games
I know,
on a
everybody
field
loses by a
goal.
field goal now.
It's the
Justin
NFL.
Herbert reminds me of Marino.
No, Whoa, I think
He
got to
does.
slow down a
Easy.
little bit.
Whoa,
I'm not
pump the brakes.
I'm
Talking
waiting.
about all gas and no brakes.
Wait,
That's
you're looking at
ridiculous.
We know he's got the gas.
Right.
We never knew about the brakes.
he reminds me of Marino at the same point in their career. I'm not saying he reminds me of the guy who played from 83 to 89, a 17-year career that ended in the Hall of Fame. I'm saying at a similar point in their career, Justin Herbert reminds me very much of Dan Marino.
Look, I agree. He's looked fantastic, but he's got a lot of talent around him. He came into a great situation there. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are two stud wide receivers. Right. He has a very good offensive line, and they made it better in the offseason with their draft picks. And you look at the other side of the ball, I mean, they have defensive playmakers too. That is a situation that was ready for him to go into, and he could hit the ground running.
Well, they got two of Jalen Waddle, his guy from Alabama.
Right.
There's no comparison right now.
No, but there's no comparison on talent level around them either. The Chargers had a much more talented roster to begin with, and they got better this offseason. You look at who are their wide receivers, I mean, that you're going to have out there for that, and especially been healthy. Will Fuller takes the top off the defense. He hasn't even been healthy really with Tua. Devontae Parker's a reception guy. Gets a lot of receptions.
He's a receiver. He just gets a lot of receptions.
But he doesn't.
Sorry.
He doesn't stretch the field.
Well, Jalen Waddle does.
Now he does. He's had him for what, a half a game where he broke his hip, and they played 1.5 games together.
You make silly arguments.
And they won the first game they played together. They lost to a very good Bills team at home.
Speaking of silly arguments, if the Giants can win this weekend, win their second game in a row, and have a win against a division opponent, that would be huge on Monday, and the season would look completely different. My question to the panel, starting with Greg Buttle, is what is the key, the one key for the Giants if they're going to go down to Dallas and get their second win in a row?
Well, there's never really one key, but I would tell you, get Dak Prescott off his spot. He's too comfortable back there throwing the ball. When I've seen him play, he's got all the time in the world to throw the ball, and he can throw it anywhere he wants. And Amari Cooper, let me tell you something. You can play man-to-man on him. You better play one under and one on top. You can't. You've got to double the guy. I'd say don't double Ezekiel Elliott. He's only had 8 receptions. I mean, it's not like he's getting the ball thrown to him. There's certain downs where you're going to say, if I'm a linebacker and it's 3rd and 13, I'm eyeing Zeke for a screen pass or a quick thing like that. But I don't think that. I don't think that's the issue. I think that you got to go strong there.
All right, prediction time. Gary Myers, Giants, Cowgirls. Who's going to win?
I think this could be a really entertaining game, but as well as the Giants look like they had the potential to play well now that Galladay is making some explosive plays and Kadarius Toney got worked into the offense last week, I just think Dallas has too much, and the Giants not going to be able to score with them. So I'm saying like 30-20, but it might be a field goal game with 8 minutes to go, and Dallas tacks on a touchdown there. I think it's going to be a very competitive game.
Greg?
You know what? I think it's a competitive game too. If it was in New York, I'd really give the Giants a good shot. Yeah. Well, you know what I mean. You know what it's like. I'd really give the Giants a better shot, but I don't see the Giants beating the Cowboys, but I see them playing a good game. But it's all about Prescott. Can you move him off the spot and make him uncomfortable?
So that's one key from Greg Buttle. Joe?
I think that the Giants just proved they could go in on the road in a really big spot, and you're playing a division rival, and so you're familiar with them. But the Cowboys were moving the ball with Dak Prescott last year against the Giants before he went down. I think they're going to do more of the same. I don't think they can score enough, but I do think it's going to be close. Like 30-24 is my prediction, Cowboys.
Interesting. That's what I was going to say, Cowboys by 7, and I think that if they can just be contenders, if they can just hold their own, that'll be a good sign. But ultimately, I don't think they have what it takes for Cowboys offense.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Giants by 6, touchdown in overtime.
Again?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, back-to-back weeks.
It worked last week.
It did.
So when
I was 2-0 last week.
This game could help define the Giants' season or determine, not define the season, but determine what the season's going to be about, because there's going to be a huge difference between being 2-3 and Dallas is 3-2 versus being 1-4 and Dallas is 4-1.
100%.
So this is a crucial game for the Giants, and although I picked Dallas to win, with any of these games, I'm not shocked if it goes the other way. It's usually one or two plays that are determining teams that are relatively evenly matched, and the exception, obviously, is when Houston goes to Buffalo. Houston goes to Buffalo.
I got to ask Todd a question here because I
have
feel like
to answer it.
this is really more of my comfort zone is asking the question. So
Yeah.
when you talk about the fact that you think the Giants can really win,
Yeah.
is it because you think the Giants are that good, or you think that they can just be true contenders against the Cowboys?
I think that the people listening to the podcast are Giant fans.
Okay.
So that's why I pick them every week.
I see.
You got to play to your audience.
That's an by the way, I love an honest response.
It's honest.
He was trying to get the people in New York last week to light the Empire State Building blue and green after the victories.
I thought it'd be the right thing to do. I mean, the New York Blitz logo is blue and green. I don't know why the Empire State Building shouldn't be. So London's calling the JETS Jets.
How is someone not singing that right now? I feel like, Joe, you were going to be the one who was going to be like a little like
New York.
Call.
Oh,
No.
London calling the Clash.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I liked that. I nodded along. It was a good transition.
And thank you. I appreciate that. I write my ad libs. So they're coming off of a thrilling 27-24 overtime win against Tennessee here in New Jersey. Greg Buttle, you played in the league. How much does momentum carry from week to week?
You know, I don't know that you can have a one-game momentum.
Fair enough.
So I do believe you can get on a roll, but you don't know you're on a roll until 3 games. Then you go, oh, we're on a roll. Oh, yeah, hey, the ball's bouncing our way. Hey, we got some good vibes. That's when you say it. After one game, you got to go out and prove again that you can even compete with somebody, because the first 3 games you didn't compete with anybody.
That's so interesting because I feel like that's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. It's just the fact that it's a pattern, right? So once you have 3 wins, then it's a pattern. 1 win is just at this point an anomaly.
You know, not everybody gets married after 1 date. So I mean, you got to have a couple dates, and you go, okay, they're pretty nice together. Okay, yeah. So let the Jets play again, and let's see how they perform, and let's see if they have and build consistency. I think, and the same with the Giants. You have to build the consistency. You want to call it a process, call it what you want, but you've got to build that. I played the same, better. I played the same. I made less mistakes. Man, that's building it. That's building it.
I have to add this one thing, Joe, and this is really important. I think for the sake of international relations between the U.S. and Great Britain, it's a really good thing that Buttle is not going to London.
I think it makes sense.
That is sense. Blimey.
We don't want to send our national treasure over there on our end. But now, wait. You know how like you set them up?
Yeah.
You know how you set them up? All right.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, but I got to ask this question. How many 3-game plus winning streaks did you have during your career?
We had
I'm
about,
serious. No, I mean
we had
that
about 5.
genuinely.
We had about 5.
Yeah, throughout the course of your career.
Yeah, because you know what? You can almost say, look, the goal is to win 3 in a row. That's a really good. Win 1 in a row, number 1. But if you can start winning 3 in a row, now you change the complexity of the race. You can change the complexity of what's happening. So you can't, especially, and again, December is a huge month in the NFL, and you see it year in and year out. All of a sudden, Tampa Bay can't lose. They go to the Super Bowl. All of a sudden, the Packers are on a roll. You know, and all of this stuff. The Giants did that when they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They were incredibly mediocre until December, and then all of a sudden,
playoff wins,
right? And they lost to the Patriots, I think, in December, and then they
the
went
last
back.
game, they lost the Patriots at home,
right? And that was
they were competitive, which I think was the catalyst.
That was what you call momentum, and that is what you call getting hot at the right time.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I think that's true.
Getting cold. You were cold after the Green Bay Packer game. Do you remember that? You spoke to Eli afterwards.
I remember honestly thinking I was going to die.
But your mouth was too frozen to complain. You remember that?
I do remember
I know my Andy Adler stories.
I do remember that.
So here's my question, Greg Buttle. You say 3 games in a row is momentum. The Falcons present a good chance to get their 2nd win in a row. They're not a good football team. Do you feel like this is a good place for the Jets to go and possibly get their 2nd win in a row?
Well, to speak on a level that is right. The Jets aren't a good team yet. So you have two bad teams. The records are bad. So let's just call it with that if you want to include records. So, but are they both?
If you want to.
Are they both?
Have at it.
Are they both?
Right, they don't matter. But if you want to
Are
bring
they
it
both
in,
getting better? Now, the question is, are they both getting better? And the Jets made big strides. Offensively, they made big strides. And to me, that is the most important. Their defense is capable enough to have a winning record in this league. And if they start getting turnovers, that defense may be a top 10 defense in the league.
Let me ask you this, because is the recipe that they had for victory against the Titans sustainable? Because I think they did take steps forward, but I also think that the competition level on the defensive side of the ball took a step down in their matchup against Tennessee versus the first three defenses that they played. But they had, a large backyard play, go deep for a touchdown. They had another big pass interference call. Off platform, yes, when he was throwing here. But is that sustainable? Is that something you can replicate in the course of a game?
Well, let's say this. There's a lot of quarterbacks that replicate that and sustain that. But you've got to give that quarterback some time to throw, and you've got to have players catch the ball. So, yes, it's absolutely replicable.
Replicable.
Whatever that word is, that's what it is. But, again, you've got to have a lot of things going for you. Listen, you line up and you play the game. And if you make less mistakes than the other team, you should have a good chance to win. The team that makes the bigger plays ends up winning, whether it's the field goal at the end or it's the interception or it's the one-handed catch. So, to me, I think that you have an opportunity. The Jets do have an opportunity to win. They're not on a roll yet, but the kid at quarterback played a lot better than he did the previous week. Got to like that.
And let me ask you one more follow-up there. For the idea of getting that first win, does that help breathe a sigh of relief into the team on the season? Because when you go with that, is there a little bit of pressure as it mounts each week that you don't win to get that first win? So coming off the first win, can they play a little bit looser this week?
No, I don't. I might be different than some other players or whatever, but I don't believe in pressure's off. Pressure's always on you, and you've got to be able to play with pressure, and you've got to be able to go out there and know that, hey, this is a different game. We won last week. The victory last week, and I can only revert back to when I was there, is that when you have a victory, you go out that night and you have a victory. The next day, there's no victory. It's a new week, and it's gone. But fans relish that. Media relishes that, whether it's the loss or whatever, because you got 5 days to write stuff, you got 5 days to enjoy it, or you got 5 days to hate. So, but the players don't. So you enjoy it and you move to the next game. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no relief because I won a game. If there is relief, it's the same. You feel that I won a game, I'm happy, or I lost a game, I'm not happy. It only lasts for a modicum of time, and then it's on to the next game.
So the next game features the Atlanta defense, which has given up an NFL worst 32 points a game. Can the Jets offense keep it rolling this week, Greg?
I don't see why not. I mean, unless he's throwing 4 interceptions in the game, I don't see why not. But I think that they can do that. I think the Jets defense is capable enough. Listen, the Atlanta Falcons offense is real simple to me. It's tight ends and running backs. Over 60% of their receptions or targets are to running backs and tight ends. So this is what they do. And I don't know whether that's the dink and dunk routine. I haven't seen enough of them to know that. But if that's the case, then you know that ball's coming out in 2.5 seconds. And so your pass rush may not be capable of making sacks, but you've got to put some pressure on Matty Ice and get him off the spot, so to speak.
So with the Jets playing obviously against the Falcons, they only pressure the quarterback. I looked it up 16.4% of the time. Is that a good spot for Zach to be able to maybe show his wares a little bit? I know that he is better off platform or has excelled off platform, but for him, he hasn't had a lot of time so far in the NFL season like he did have at BYU. if he has more time, if Atlanta doesn't change their defensive pattern from the beginning of the year, is that something that helps Zach? Maybe not more time. Maybe we'll see him blossom a little bit this weekend.
Well, I think he needs to show that he can be more effective than he has been throwing from the pocket, because his best stuff, as advertised, has come, as you called, the off-platform throws. We used to call that throwing on the run or moving the pocket or something like that. Now all these new terms, downhill. Isn't the football field flat? And everybody's running downhill. But I think that this could be a good week for Zach to show a little bit more that he can succeed from the pocket, because I think it is really hard to consistently make plays like some of the plays that he made against Tennessee. Aaron Rodgers has really made a career out of it, but he's also really good from the pocket.
All right, well, again, just to follow up on that, is the pocket's only as good as your offensive line. So right away, and I don't care what the defensive line of the Atlanta Falcons has done or their linebackers, they may be different this week. They may end up blitzing a lot more. And so you put pressure on certain guys and you go, all right, I don't know. So that drop back stuff and pocket passer to me is all nominal. So do what you do best. That's what let the kid do what he does best. He can throw it from the pocket, but you can't throw it from the pocket on your back. You can't throw it from the pocket when they're getting pushed in your face. Get him out of the pocket. Let him. He doesn't have to prove he's a pocket passer. As far as I'm concerned, that's what he can do.
Don't try and force a square peg into a round hole here.
Yeah, they do it all the time. They do it all the time.
You just can't. I agree with you. What he does best is moving around. But can you do that on every time he's got to throw the ball? Doesn't he just have to drop back?
No. What I'm saying is there's boots, so you can use boots. There's rollouts. There's 5-step drops. There's skinny posts. There's seam patterns. There's to the backs. And all of these are quick passes. They're not the drop back pass where you're going to sit. Drop back is a 7-step. That's drop back to me. 5-step, that means you're in the gun. You go 1, 2, throw. If you're under center, it's a 5-step drop.
Oh, well, he hasn't been really efficient doing the 1, 2, 3 goes. It's you run out to the right. For most quarterbacks, and I know he's got an exceptionally strong arm, but you run out to the right, you run out to the left, you're really cutting the field in half.
Well, you're cutting the field in half if the guy's open. Who gives shucks?
Shucks. Who gives a shucks?
By the way, is this it?
I don't give a shucks.
Family friendly.
Do you give a shucks?
Only if I'm having oysters.
I shuck corn, right.
Right.
All right, so Atlanta's the home team is a 3-point favorite because you only get 3 points for being the home team.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think the crowd is going to be more supportive in London.
It's possible. Yes, that's very possible. Gary Myers, who's going to win the game and why?
I actually think I'm going to pick the Jets to win this game.
Look at you.
Because the Falcons are really miserable, and they lost a tough game against your Washington football team. And they just seem to be, one of those teams that's destined to have a top 5 pick next year. Maybe the Jets will also, but you look at the schedule before the season and you say, this is a game that it can win.
Greg?
I don't disagree. I think the Jets can win this game. They're not going to win the game if you throw 4 interceptions. That's just not what's going to happen. So the Jets, if you can sit back there and you can say, okay, defense, go do what you did last week, and we'll be conservative enough to play, I think you can win the football game. And I don't think they can win it anywhere from 17-14 to 40-10. I think they can do any of those things.
One thing, I actually just thought of this second. One thing that where I think Zach Wilson can feel a little bit better about himself in terms of the 4 interception game against New England is that was it the following? Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was it the next game they played?
Denver.
Okay, so it's 2. All right. So 2 weeks.
Have they scored in Denver yet?
No.
No, still not.
2 weeks after Wilson played really poorly against New England made Brady look the worst he's looked since he's been in Tampa. And although Tampa won the game because they're incredibly more talented than the Jets are, and the Jets couldn't play like that and still win the game, Belichick made Brady look pretty ordinary in that game. He didn't throw a touchdown.
I mean,
pass.
he's been planning for that game since Brady left town, so I hope the game plan had enough time to develop.
Yeah.
But does he really know his game at all to game plan against him? Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So he was able to make Brady look ordinary, which I think as a rookie.
Pedestrian.
Yeah. Okay. Pedestrian. So if Wilson is looking for one glimmer of hope out of the New England game, is he made the best quarterback of all time look pedestrian, and he got him 4 interceptions, but maybe in a year, that's not going to happen anymore. So I'm just trying to be the glass half full guy.
I like it.
Because in my years at the Daily News,
You are a curmudgeon.
they encourage me to be the glass half empty guy in my writing.
Well, we know about Facebook, right, and how they have encouraged curmudgeonly posts to spread like wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
Topical in the news right now.
We can do a
But
whole
we're going to do
series
positive on this podcast.
We can do a whole series
Yes.
of podcasts, not just one podcast with 8 episodes. We can do a whole series of podcasts about some of the crap I went through at the Daily News that
That'll be the spin-off
when they
of this
tried to
podcast.
influence
By the
my
way,
writing.
He's already angling. We're in week
I mean,
5.
without-
It's just
We're
got
in the
next one
Daily
lined
News
up.
building, so
Yeah, the old
if
building.
these walls could speak.
It brings back so many memories of.
The so many questions, right? Like we don't have time for that, but I definitely want to delve into that at some point.
I literally could write a book about it.
I've
It's a shame you
read
don't
it.
write.
Right. If you could write, I could
I was
read.
going to say,
Craig, so Joe, your prediction.
I think that the Jets will build on what they did last week. I think that Robert Saleh has experience going over to London. He's been there 4 times before, and I think that is a big advantage as a
He
coach.
knows what to eat. Is what you're saying.
He knows where to eat. He knows when to
Indian
sleep.
food.
That might be the most important
Well,
thing.
he said it was
He's
better to
been there
go over
4
on a
times?
This
Thursday.
is his 4th trip
Really?
there, yeah.
On
Yeah.
vacation or for games?
For games.
Okay.
For games. So I think that that's a big advantage for the Jets, and I don't think Atlanta will be able. I think it's a mismatch, right? Styles make fights. This is a mismatch. The Jets' defense will be able to slow down Atlanta's offense. I think the Jets' offense is dynamic enough to take advantage of
It's like
Atlanta's
they're playing
defense.
the music here that we're almost done because Greg's
I know.
already packed up.
Well, that's the type.
Well, he sounds better standing up than he does seated. Andy?
Falcons are not a very good team. If Zach Wilson can do what he did this past Sunday, Jets are going to win this, and I'm going to say by 7.
Zach Wilson last Sunday, almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception, which Greg said was a key. Jets win in a blowout. One last question before I let you guys all go. With the Jets going over to play in London, do you guys think that there will ever be an NFL team either in Canada, Mexico, or in Europe?
I think eventually, but not imminently.
Not in your lifetime.
Well, I'm old.
I'm
Joe?
starting a petition.
What about Joe's lifetime?
Could be.
I'm starting
Could be.
a petition to bring back the Barcelona Dragons. So it was a really cool logo. NFL Europe shouldn't have flamed out.
Andy?
What was the thing that Greg said?
You were WL. Wasn't listening.
Right. Andy gets a WW on the play.
Do you think there's
Yeah.
going
But
to be a
we
team in Europe?
thank all of you for listening.
That's right.
Thank you for listening to
Why
PIX
aren't people
on
listening?
Pigskin.
Why aren't... He's asking questions and we're getting a lot of WL.
Well, she wasn't listening to Greg.
I just secured
She
a
was
good
listening to
one-on-one
me.
just now, just FYI. That's
Who'd
what,
you get?
I'll tease
Tune
that
in
on Sunday.
Sunday
There you
night.
go.
For our one-on-one on Sports Nation Sunday morning
So
for the New
that's what
York
I do.
Blitz.
Tease, right?
Right, and feel free to share this podcast.
We ended how we started.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.